I'm going to have to, oops, I'm gonna have to keep an eye on the participants page in case somebody pops in looking to join. Won't miss anybody. Let's see. Um, Good. Mutes for people that are intentionally. I don't want somebody not realizing their mic's on and catching them. So the only people who currently have mics on are myself and Heather, just so we
I turn it
know where we
off.
are. You're fine either way. I just don't want you to be surprised. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Today is it's the 18th of November, right? The month's flown by. 18th of November, Monday. It's 7:04 p.m. Took us a few minutes to just kind of get everybody in. Robin is here with her mother's birthday tonight. So, Robin, thank you for taking the time out to be here. Thank you to everybody for being here, but especially somebody who's celebrating mom's birthday. So, I try to hit through the key points here and keep everybody from being here all night long. um, Go ahead and run through real quick. We've got our quorum in place. I want to make sure I'm hitting my key points here. So, everybody who's here tonight, I'll just run through if you don't know who everybody is. You got Shanda, you've got myself, you've got Heather and Robin, and then we have Matt here with us tonight, which we will go ahead and officially bring Matt on. That'll be one of the first things. So, quorum's established for the board, and then special votes tonight that we're going to take care of. The first thing I'm going to do is for the board, I'm going to throw out the motion to appoint Matt Birmingham to the board of directors. So we'll officially bring Matt on. All those in favor?
Aye. Favor. Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Matt, you don't get to vote. All right. With that, the quorum will pass. With that, the four board members who are currently on will vote unanimously to approve Matt Birmingham coming on to continue out through July of this next year. So through July of 2025. Matt, thanks for joining us again. I know this is like your second time of doing this for your kind of pitch hitter, right?
Yeah, if you combine both, I might make it to one full year.
That's right. We'll keep putting chunks of experience together.
Yeah.
Second piece of, and now Matt, you will be a part of this one. Second thing that we're going to do is we need to appoint our treasurer officially, and Heather has been willing to take that duty on. So there would be a motion to appoint board member Heather Fitch to the position of treasurer. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Heather, how you feel about that?
I was
Yeah.
gonna, I think
You
it's funny, I don't have a vote.
So we'll unanimously vote to approve Heather to take the position of board treasurer, which you've been running through and doing a ton with that, and we'll get to that pretty soon here. A collaborative effort of a lot of work here. So the second thing I want to take care of is just quick approval of the previous meeting minutes. We've got meeting minutes from September the 9th and September the 30th. The boards had a chance to look at them. I went ahead and posted them, knowing that everybody was good with them. But if we could just get approval of those, so I'll make it real simple. Is there anybody opposed to the meeting minutes from September the 9th and September the 30th? Anybody from the board?
Is she still in? I'll give me another call for her, please.
Oh.
All good? Okay.
No.
All right.
Okay.
So we will unanimously approve September the 9th and September the 30th meeting minutes, which are available on the website. And from there, we'll go ahead and move on into the fun part that Heather's been looking forward to, which is going to be the treasurer's report. So she's going to kind of run through some of the current financial status and just talk about a little bit of the year-to-date budget review. And then from there, we'll move on into our budget for 2025, which the board has had a chance to kind of workshop, take a look at the numbers, come back together and say, yeah, this looks bad or this looks good. And we can run through some of those if you want, Heather, just however you want to hit on your points. So.
All right, great, thank you. As far as 2024 goes to date, I have figures currently through October 31st. Obviously, we're halfway through November, so those numbers don't come in until mid-December, and then we'll of course get December's in January. So this report that I have here isn't a final report for the year, but it is where we currently are at versus where the budget was set by the previous board this last year. And there was obviously a lot of additional work that was contributed, and hard to say at this point how we're going to come out exactly, but just to get an idea of where we're over budget at this point. Landscaping, we had a lot of great landscaping that was done. Things were looking very much improved, but with those numbers came a change in the variance of the budget versus what was actually spent. Common landscaping budget currently is over by 10,500. Townhouse expenses are over by 20,000. Now, I don't expect or anticipate a whole lot of change to that for the next 2 months, other than our regular contract work that we have coming in for the landscaping. The other additions that we had, our administrative costs had gone up quite a bit, I think, from the previous years, based on our contract and legal expenses as well with that. So we're over by, let's see, between those two things, about $7,000 over budget. And we had a little issue with our water sewer this last month where I think that there was a leak. It was found, or it was found through our irrigation, so that was corrected, but that also threw us over for our water sewer budget by nearly 4,000. So those are things we're over budget. The good thing is that we're under budget in a couple areas as well, which is our pool. Our pool maintenance, there wasn't a whole lot done to that. So as far as clubhouse repairs and our pool supplies were under budget by around 8,000 there, and under budget so far with a few thousand yet for our general maintenance, although that will probably end up equaling out before the end of the year. And our accounting expense about $2,000, but again, we still have to do our end of the year taxes. And so those are really the only areas that we're over budget. If you put that all together, currently we are over budget by $10,675 with 2 months still to go. So there won't be anything contributed this year for reserves with that. And yeah, that's where we're at so far with 2024. So we're just taking that into consideration. Like I said, there's a lot of great work that was done, a lot of landscaping, a lot of truly, I think, encouragement for where we're going into this new year. So excited for that, which takes me into our 2025 budget. And I will say that I just want everyone to know that our board worked together as a team to develop this 2025 budget. We put a lot of thought into it, and we combined it with our individual perspectives, our experience, our opinions. And while we all, of course, represent diversity with that, with viewpoints, we did reach a consensus that we do believe is going to serve what we're wanting and planning to do coming up for 2025, and also came into an agreement with where reserves should be. Along with that, we have a lot of work that we want to do within the community, and I think that that was also reflected in the 2025 budget, which obviously we know that there is some change to dues, and I do want to touch on that. The main one being our insurance. The insurance has gone up about 20, 25, and then 30, and then this next year they're anticipating a 40% increase on insurance alone, and so that's the biggest portion currently of the additional raise for the townhomes. And that covers, someone did ask about what that covers exactly. With Rob's perspective or how he explained it, which was if one of the townhouse buildings burnt down, the insurance that we have covers rebuilding it to the studs on the inside of each townhome owner's home. So your own insurance for townhouse individuals would be to have covered everything from the drywall and then everything inside. So it really just be a very skeleton framework inside that is covered with the insurance. And so the only thing that is not covered outside of the townhouse that would be common would be our clubhouse and like the pergola or the pool area. So those are the buildings or the additional insurance that is covered as far as the common expense. But that was the biggest one, and our contract for that gets renewed in April of this next year. So in February and in March, there are no insurance premiums that we pay because we pay it in a 10-month cycle. So we'll have one more of the lower income or the lower payment month in January. And then in April, from April through following January, that'll be the 10 months paying that higher premium. Now with insurance, good news is that insurance is looking currently at covering some of the townhome roofs. And I'll let Matthew talk a little bit more about that because he's been working closer with the insurance and the roofing company on exactly which ones are going to be covered, and anything that's covered with insurance, although we do pay a very small deductible with that, it saves us quite a bit of money for the reserves for those roofs that are getting covered that we had factored in to obviously cover those roofs, which would be coming up very shortly. Other additions that we had with the 2025 budget, very minimal. We had I added in assessment refunds because I didn't know this and I wasn't aware, but it really makes sense. I was starting to look through here that there are several individuals or families that have paid into their assessments ahead of time. And so if any one of those ends up being unaware that they have set up themselves on an automatic payment structure, paid again, maybe they sell their house and then there's a balance to that. We are having an average there of between $1,000, $1,400 a year. So I wanted to just add that into the budget to try to get it as close to an actual as what we could. Additional changes to it, electrical gate repair under the maintenance, common maintenance, that was just moved to general maintenance and townhouse maintenance just to simplify things. I will say that we have, as a board, have really been looking at each one of these individual items, and our biggest thing really knowing that the dues had to go up was to dial in a little bit closer to where it was that we could save money so we could get actually more maintenance items taken care of and still cover the reserves, but be able to preserve the amount of dues that both single family and townhouse owners pay right up the front. And so we have gotten several additional quotes for the garbage. Of course, that was an issue that we had back in October. We've gotten a couple different landscaping contracts that actually one of those is still coming in yet. We haven't gotten it received yet. We also have been looking at what we were paying to AMG for all the different maintenance items and really looking back to what could be saved and how much money could be saved there. We are looking into, I know our clubhouse phone and internet, just like our own individual internet and phone. We like to just check it every few years to see if we can get it maybe back in check by switching back and forth between either Spectrum or Comporium. I know it's again a low item there, but that's just how detailed that our team has been to really look at each individual item as to where we can save and preserve money. But the fun part is always spending it. And so we did talk a lot about what things we wanted to include in this year's budget. One of them being something that the last board had started discussing, which was new pool furniture. The ones that we have are looking very weathered and worn. And so we did discuss being able to get new furniture or restrap the current ones so at least they look new. And that's something that we're in the process of getting estimates or quotes on. Obviously, that's a spring item, but it does take time to get all that in line. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that that was something that we had been looking at preparing for, and also depending on where we wanted to take that money, which thankfully to Matt, he has been able to look at the reserves. I'll let him speak to that here in a little bit and really look at it from an engineer's standpoint, which I can appreciate. And what items on there are not going to be necessarily needed in the time frame that the reserve study thought, what things that we have done already that maybe would realign some of those figures. Again, just looking at how we can save money. And as I was going through the reserves, I will say that there was an account that we had last year. It was a town home reserve account. And when the CDs were moved across, there was a $14,000 difference that was tracked down, and that ended up in our operating account. So that is being sent back over to the townhouses and was taken off of the amount of dues that would have had to be paid in 2025. So that was a nice savings that we were able to find and reallocate them back to the townhouses. We also are going to be doing work on the clubhouse at the pool. So the bathroom doors, the utility door to the maintenance room, those are going to be either repainted or replaced. I think the bathroom doors will be repainted, a little bit of work to the inside of those. And landscaping, we wanted to continue on. I know that the last board did a wonderful job with phase one and really got everyone excited about what was coming. And so many of you, especially the townhouse owners, have seen several of our board members walking around the townhouses many different times. Some of you have came out and talked with us. I really appreciated that as well. Just knowing how many times that we have been walking through and looking at things and getting quotes for additional landscaping and really wanting to continue again what the last board started and move that on. But it also can't be to the neglect of coming over budget. And so some of the things that we have discussed or that I just ran through will be items that will come from reserves. Others will be items that are going to be taken into account with this increase in budget. I did want to make sure, I think there was a question that we had from this last few months, which was for the townhouse owners, the amount of money that you spend in your current dues, what are you actually getting for that? And I feel like it is easier to describe with a breakdown. And so when you take a look at the 2025 budget this year, you're going to see it broken down into single family and also town home owner expense, but it's done by general ledger item or item number name. And that way you can know exactly how much of your dues are going towards each one of those different things. And again, the majority there is with your insurance. These are items that cost of living, they just go up. There's nothing there that is in our control. Obviously, there's a lot of hurricanes that have gone on, and I personally can testify this last week. I had an insurance issue myself for my own home insurance, and my insurance that I had a few years ago that it was fixed under has gone out of business because of all the claims that they have had, and they couldn't keep up. So the alternative to that for the insurance companies that are staying in business through this time is that they are raising the premiums up to cover everything, all their claims across the state. I can also say from a real estate standpoint, as an agent, I get a lot of information on what's coming with state legislation. And this last year, there was supposed to be a 50% increase across the board for North Carolina and a 45% increase for South Carolina. And that was supposed to be for 2024, but thankfully, for the time that when that came up with legislation, we had our Board of Real Estate Agents, realtors that had gone and fought that along with our state legislation. And we were able to negotiate with the insurance companies and bring that down to 35% this last year, which was a great savings. But that goes back up for vote again. Every year, the insurance is trying to raise that. So obviously that's something that we're going to continue to fight, but we also don't want them going out of business as well. So that's just one of those things we're just going to have to suck up and be thankful that we have insurance, thankful that we have not been in any of the areas that have been affected this last year, and just know that what we're doing as far as paying our insurance is gives us the protection and the feeling of confidence, knowing that if something did happen, that you're not going to lose everything. That's the whole point of insurance. Nobody likes paying it, but we all have to. So those are some of the, I guess, the few points that stood out to me. The reserves, I will give you numbers on those. Currently, the townhomes have 203,920,000. Did I say that right? 203,920 in your reserve accounts, and single family has $608,011 in our reserves for single family. That does not include any interest on our current CDs. That interest is not able to be received or counted until those CDs are cashed out. Currently, as Justin, our last treasurer, had taken care of putting those CDs in Edward Jones accounts, they are making anywhere from, I think it's 4.7 at the smallest and 5.25 at the largest. We do have 30,000 in a cash account that is making minimal. I think it's 0.05% interest, but it's readily available for some of the expenditures that we are planning to do for this next year. And anything I missed or anything that the rest of the board would like to add to that?
Yeah, it was a pretty good overview, Heather. And yeah, I do want to piggyback off what you said, but I also want to point something out. A lot of the heavy lifting has been done by Matt and Heather on this over the last few months. Shanda was in there quite a bit in the very beginning, and then the entire world attacked her homes, like, and Robin has been doing a lot, but I know she's got a lot of good decision making, and then I'm mostly watching from the sidelines and then going, "Hey, that's going to cost more than you thought it would," or don't forget about this. But there a lot of heavy lifting, especially I don't think between work. I think actually, Heather, you gave up work to work on this and then tried to supplement work and then stayed up a lot. And we frazzled you to your wits' end a little bit, but you got through it. And I just want to from me to you, I want to say thank you because it's what we needed. And then from anybody in the community who just, doesn't really see how much work goes into it, you guys have done a lot. And then all those townhome walkarounds, and Matt's going to talk a little bit, I know, about the where he is and what he's kind of done looking at the reserves. And I think that's really kind of put us in a better position where we could all take a little breath because, to preface what he's about to talk about, you can underfund your reserves where you can say, hey, we need this much money. You can underfund your reserves, which is kind of where we've been at times. You can overfund your reserves, or you can try to find something that's a happy medium. And I think that's what Matt's focus with you guys has been, to really kind of bring that in a happy medium. And Matt has an engineering background, which kind of helps. Um, are you ready to shift over to Matt, talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much also to my all of you, the team that really helped to get these numbers worked through, and um, I definitely feel confident about the numbers, knowing the time that has been invested, going back and looking truly at every invoice that has came through our HOA since January 1st of this year. There were we were able to find some money that had been misappropriated, as well, not on purpose, but just on accident, through uh, AMG, just, yes, I want to say, different line items, or different communities that were confused, but everything was actually taken care of. It just, I want to make sure that everyone understands that every piece, every expense, every line item that you're looking at has had incredible scrutinization and has been checked and double checked. And again, the whole board is taken apart with that. And so these aren't numbers that have been really pulled out of nowhere. We've been trying to take really serious consideration to both the townhouse owners and the single family, and that was very important, to be fair, be respectful, but make sure the numbers are correct. And Ashley has been wonderful at AMG, because anytime somebody new comes on, there's a whole education process that goes along with that. And she's spent some a great time working with me, and working through these different questions that our board has had as well. So I'm very thankful, and feel very confident to the place that we're currently at. Thank you.
We kind of shift over to Matt, and Heather she didn't touch too much on one portion of it, which is kind of aligning with what you're going to talk about, which is some of the maintenance stuff that boards I've been a part of in the past have not had the money to do the maintenance at times. And then we've had the full maintenance and do these different things too. If you can kind of pull in some of how we got to that number that we decided on, we try to push higher. It truly is a compromise, because it's easy to say, well, we're a team of people who came together and we got this done. But the reality is, compromise means everybody kind of gives up a little bit. So if you can kind of talk a little bit about having money for maintenance as a part of your overall plan here, that'd be good.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So for anybody in the community who hasn't looked at the reserve study, it's a very good starting document. It'll tell you everything in the neighborhood, townhome and common wise, that are critical items that you need to pay attention to. For instance, roads, building siding, roofs, shingles, storm drain system. We have recently added tree removal as part of it, because we have a lot of trees and they are getting bigger and eventually will need to come out. So like Heather said earlier, our common is at 606,080 and townhomes at 203,920, which is in a good spot, but saying that we still need to contribute, because some of these items that I'm talking about have a total cost of $500,000 or more. One that we looked at removing, or not necessarily removing, but not counting, is total asphalt replacement in the roadways. And this is because there is already a line item for mill and overlay, which is taking top portion off of the road and replacing that, which you can do multiple times. And this saves, I think when I did the calculation, it was about $800,000 over the course of the 30 years, was a significant amount of money. This next year, we touched on the pool furniture replacement, and that is actually a reserve item that I believe was on for 2 years ago, that because of furniture was still looking good, we didn't do it then, but we have the money to replace it in reserves now. A couple other items that are coming up are the walls, signing, and finishes for the townhomes. We've started getting prices on these. If you're a town homeowner, it's anything that is wood on the outside of your home. You'll probably see me and a couple contractors walking around so I can show them what they're looking for, but that we're getting pricing for this year, along with continuing some tree removal. We got one quote out. We're probably looking for another one just in case, see if we can get a lower price, but those are two of the items that we're looking for. And then town common reserves. The big one is the furniture replacement and the clubhouse maintenance. So, any questions from the board on that? I know I'm not going to go into what we're contributing this year. When you look at that reserve study, it's similar, slightly less on the townhome, not by much, and the common is significantly less because we have a good amount in there, but the amount that we have planned to contribute over the next 30 years maintains. And that's really the goal. It's not for the townhomes to borrow from the common or for either of them to borrow from each other or take out a loan. The goal is to have money in both that they can take care of each other or themselves, not each other.
It's easier to spend the money than it is to try to raise the money for an expense that you have an immediate need for. Personally, I'm really excited that this is the year that we're working on repainting with the townhomes. I think that's going to really give it a fresh look. I mean, anytime you throw a coat of paint on something, it really makes a difference. So I know that the wood's going to be all looked at, some of it repaired, and again, that painting, this is the year for it. And that's a very large expenditure, but thankfully, based on our reserves, we had the money to pull out of the reserves and not have to sit and do a fundraiser to come up with the money, because we have done such a great job in the past of paying into that for the depreciation that each owner who lived in the townhomes have been paying all along. And this is going to be one of the benefits of having that.
Just want to chime in one more thing. So one of the important things about maintaining these reserves, I know people ask, like, why are we saving it for people who are going to live here 30 years later? One of my friends lives across the street in the Wakefield community, and their pool is going to be shut down for the next year because they cannot afford to fix it because they don't have that money in the reserves and they could not get an assessment approved. So that's one of the reasons to have these reserves.
And I appreciate you brought up, Matt, the Wakefield community when we were talking one night, and I was like, perfect real world right next door. I'm sure there's probably multiple people in our community who know people over at Wakefield, and you can go over there and ask them what's going on with your HOA, and it's a failure to plan for many, many years. We are in a good position here where we can kind of adjust back. Heather, let me slightly put you on the spot. No, not too much though, by asking the question that, and Matt might be able to speak to it too, as a town homeowner. If I'm a town homeowner and I'm looking and I'm seeing an increase in my dues, it's going to go up by $65 a month, I think it is. Why are the dues going up by $65 a month in like a very brief nutshell package? Because it's all right there in the numbers, but I think, the average person would be like, I just want to know why. And I know you have the answer, so only a little bit on the
Yeah.
spot, but not much.
No, I can certainly answer that. It just goes back to if I sit here and I look back at the townhome dues in 2021. Well, actually, the biggest increase was from 20 to 2021. There was a $50 increase there. But since that time, there was only been a $5 increase from 2020 to now we're looking at 2025. That's 5 years with, if they didn't go up at this point, only a $5 increase. And if you sit and look at the state of where our economy is and how everything has changed since 2020, nothing has stayed the same as far as price goes. I did speak to insurance, and that is the biggest part of it, but as well as our landscaping contract, our management company contract, our pool contract, trash contract, all those contracts go up anywhere between 3 and 5% a year. So as those have continued to go up, the dues have been preserved, trying to maintain the lowest amount of dues that possibly could be maintained until the result is they just can't be retained. With the cost of living increases, I don't think any of us would agree that our own personal bills, even for anything that we do, has stayed the same in the last 5 years. And so I'm actually very excited to think that, in that 5 years, there's only been a $5 increase. And with the work that we've done as a board over the last few months, originally we thought it was going to have to be a lot more than the, $65 increase. We thought it was going to end up having to be a lot more, and we just sat here and whittled it down and whittled it down and whittled it down till the point that we negotiated what we could take from reserves, and that was a big help with that. And so I feel, again, very confident about being able to do maintenance, because that's one thing that everybody discusses it with the townhouses, is what maintenance can be done. And we want to be able to do those. We don't want to have deferred maintenance. We want you to feel that you love living here because things are being taken care of. And you just can't take care of things, even as single family owners. We can't take care of our homes if we don't continue to increase the work and the amount of money that we're investing in it. So that's the biggest difference.
And Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the continuous exorbitant increases in the insurance cost one of the major contributing factors here?
Absolutely, and especially because that's how, the insurance has increased every single year. And when you're talking about a 30 to a 45% increase on a figure that is, let me just sit here and I will give you an example. For from 2023, our budget was 39,000 for insurance. 2024, it went up to 45,000. 2025, it went up to, or next year, 25, it's going up to 64,000. So you think in the last 3 years, it's doubled in cost. And that alone for the townhouse owners is an expense of $78.75 per month for your dues, that alone. So if you remove that out of the $215 that you're paying now, there's nothing left. When you take out just the additional minimum of the contracts, not talking about anything additional. So yeah, the insurance, Chanda, is the biggest and the hardest thing to have to factor in. And nobody wants to have to factor in insurance. Nobody wants to have to pay it, but we do want to have it if something happens. So it's a responsible expenditure.
So overall, one thing I want to point out, I'm sure everybody here knows it, but spread the word to your friends. And we posted the budget and the budget letter, which are also being mailed, but both are available right now on the website. So if you're talking with somebody who's not heard yet, keep in mind, of course, that if you have your bank sending a check, you need to tell your bank to adjust it up or down or whatever you're doing. If you have it set up through AMG, I believe you still have to go into AMG's website and you have to authorize that change. So usually what we see when there's an increase, in my experience, is the bill goes up people think it's automatically going to keep coming out of their bank account and they get late notices. So we try to be forgiving of all that kind of stuff. Um, but let people know, hey, pay attention to your dues that are coming out. The last thing I wanted to hit on, I know we're going to talk about, um, you mentioned the pool furniture. There's a bunch of other little projects in there. At some point, I don't know how we'll present that. I think we need to put together like what our options are because we talked about restrapping versus all new pool furniture up at the pool. We've got various opinions on the board. It is absolutely not a collaborative team agreement. We're all like, we all have the same thought. It's 100% I could see this, but I'd like to do that. Maybe we should talk about it. So, um, I think that's something we definitely should try to put in front of the community. Maybe we put something together and put it on the website and let Facebook chew on it a little bit and just kind of get some opinions like, we're gonna spend this money. How do you guys feel? Um, and then other projects going forward that you talked about. So is there anything else from the board that you want to throw out there before we go ahead and I guess we could open it
Actually,
up to the floor?
Rob, there's one more thing that I forgot to mention, and I think it's some good food for thought, is that our community is anywhere from 10 to 14 years old. So the amount of money that would need to be spent as far as or budgeted for maintenance items, like regular maintenance items, you don't have as much when you have a younger community. So if you have a home that, is in that 5 to 7 age range, you're not going to have a lot of things that have to be repaired occasionally. You're going to have things that, might just need to be tweaked or because they've been, broke. But when you get to that 10 to 15 year range, which is where we're having a lot more maintenance issues. And it's not just necessarily one building, but all of the buildings for the townhome owners, just like I know we have some single family owners on here, and I can verify or testify to that myself as my home is getting to that 15-year range. There's a lot of things that I'm having to put into my home that I didn't have to put in when the home was only 5 to 7 years old. Just one of those things as an example that's going to be being taken care of here probably in the next week or two is a lot of the townhome vents were broken or missing. And so we thought, okay, there's a handful, maybe, 4, 5, 6. We went around and we did an inventory and it came out, correct me if I'm wrong, board, but I want to say it was like 23 to 26 different events that were going to be needing to be replaced. And again, that's something that happens in a community that is our age, but we didn't necessarily have to factor that into our dues when we were under 10 years because the age hadn't actually hit those particular items. So I think that that's another thing to consider or think about, which ties into a lot of the reserves when we're saying, well, why do we have to think about or worry about things that are happening 10 or 15 years down the road? You might not think you're going to be here, but it's the depreciation, it's the time that you're spending in that home that is wearing that home down. Both from the inside and the outside perspective. So the older that our community gets, we don't want it to look older. We want to be able to have the money and the funds to be able to maintain the look and feel of the neighborhood. And the only way to do that is to increase our maintenance. And so that is one of the larger expenditures as well that you'll see in the differences between the 2024 and the 2025 budget is that we have given ourselves money to take care of a lot of those aging factors that don't fall under necessarily reserve items, but they're items that we get calls on all the time for needing to be fixed from townhome owners, and we want to be able to get those fixed and taken care of immediately.
Well said. I appreciate it. I popped it in the chat real quick. If anybody has anything, there's anything else from the board real quickly before anybody else thoughts? Robin's ready to go celebrate with mom. So real quickly, we'll open it up to the floor. Is there anybody who has anything you want to throw out for the greater good here? You can throw it in the chat if you'd like, or you can just pop in.
Hi, this is Laura Williams. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the drainage issues. I know you've been at my townhouse a couple times. Was just wondering what the status is on all of that.
Matt, you want to jump in on that? You're over here to me. I don't know where you are to
Yeah,
her.
we actually we've walked a couple times with contractors. The last time was with Robin's dad actually to get his advice on what he thinks before we get a contractor. Um, your house specifically is one that does need a drain and would benefit from a drain. There were some other ones that we were looking at that were installed last year that either weren't working properly or just weren't installed correctly. We're still looking into that. And then some drainage issues that were caused with some of the new landscaping that went in. It's just an unintentional side effect of putting in new grass. It changes things. So we're still pricing out the best way to do it. I know we set at December 31st for reporting drainage issues. So it most likely won't be before then. Because when working with contractors, the best price that we get is when we're doing it in bulk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for bringing that up. And I want to thank you so much too for having patience with us. I know we've talked a few different times while we've been out walking around, and you definitely know that it is in our site, and we're working very diligently on getting that done. One thing about the December 31st deadline I wanted to mention, and was included in the letter, the drains themselves, and Rob, feel free to expand on this if you like, but the drains themselves are not necessarily considered or aren't considered a town home covered item for the HOA. And since the previous board had taken care of a few of the drains, we did have a discussion as the board this year of how we wanted to handle that, and decided to go ahead and cover the additional drains, the list, or at least come to a consensus of what's causing the issues. And if it's something that would benefit from a drain, then we want to be able to address it. But we couldn't have an issue that was going on indefinitely for an issue that was really considered a not covered issue, which I certainly could understand if it's something that, because of the change of landscape, it causes an issue. But because it's in primarily your, I guess what would be considered your front yard and not a community area, that is what it takes it out of being a covered expense into your individual townhome owner expense. And so there's just certain things that really come down to not being covered in the HOA and being something that is your expense and up to you to fix. And so anything that comes in after December 31st will be an individual townhome owner's responsibility.
So great question, and it kind of piggybacks off. David asked, "Why are the drains not an issue if the landscaping thing about abuse?" And basically, what it is the grading issues where when they graded the home, they were supposed to slope it so the water would flow great, and then they come in and they do poor grading, which is a common problem with new construction. It happens with single family homes too. And then you have to go back to the builder and you say to them, "Hey, when you graded my yard and then you put in the grass and all that, now the water is running back and collecting by my porch or whatever, and it's collecting around the home and it's going to cause foundation issues over time." And then the builder goes back and forth and eventually you get it sorted out, and usually they come back in and either fix it or you do a poor job of negotiating and they don't fix it. What I don't have as a single family homeowner is the ability to go to my neighbors and say, "Hey, my yard is getting water pooling in it because of the way our yards are graded, and your landscaping got completed and now it's coming over here," without suing my neighbor basically and saying, "Hey, his new garden is causing it." And so that's kind of where it is with the townhomes. Now, yes, if the townhomes, say the board comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to pull out all these trees and we're going to put in some bushes or something and some nice decorative things," then yes, absolutely, the HOA would be redoing the landscaping. But a lot of these issues are historical issues that go all the way back to the beginning of the townhomes, unfortunately. And some of them developed over time because of the grass getting killed by the water buildup. And again, same thing happened to the pool. The poor buildup and everything caused sinking. So it's not an HOA thing, because anytime the HOA is doing it, it's really saying that's my neighbor's problem too. And that's what it comes in with. So historically speaking, 10 years worth of boards said, hey, sorry, you'll have to go back to your builder. The board prior to us said, hey, we're going to go ahead and address these issues. And that was a discussion within this board of, do we cut off the town homeowners, or do we go ahead and say, hey, let's wrap it up? So I think this was a good compromise of, let's go ahead and get the names and addresses or whatever, and it'll go on. If you have drainage issues in your yard and you report them to the board, and then you sell your home within the next month, we will still carry that on. Now, what that means is this board has to get that done. So we've set the date by December 31st. That was a good compromise of, let's get it all in. And then the board has then said, hey, we're gonna have to make sure this gets done, because come July, what if we're all gone? We've seen that before with boards where they shift and they change. So this board has to commit to getting that work done. It's a little bit of a daunting task. I think, as the last board saw, they tried to take on a big bunch of projects, and they saw it was going to take a lot to get it done, and they were going to try to space it out in multiple phases, as they talked about. We see their efforts. So we're going to match those efforts. We're going to resolve the issue, and then we're going to cut it off. And quite frankly, at that point, once it's done, and we want to make a concerted effort. We don't want to like sneak this in and people miss it. So this is coming in the dues letter. So if somebody gets the letter through the mail, they don't open it, they don't look at it, send in touch with their neighbors, then there's a certain point where it's not our problem. And we just have to say, somebody would have to come back 3 years from now and say, my yard never got done. And they'll just have to sue the homeowners association. And I hate it, but we have to have a cutoff point unless the board changes the landscaping in some way. So hopefully that
Rob,
answers it.
I wanted to add to that, because you brought up a good point, and it was something that I know came up when Matt and Robin met with the last landscaper that was looking at these French drains, was that some of the flooding issues that individual townhouse owners are having are issues because of individual landscaping that their neighbors are doing. And it's affecting them individually because they're having drainage issues, but they don't actually realize that it's coming from landscaping that their neighbors have actually put in and done themselves. As a single family owner, I can tell you, I have had to put in 4 French drains myself, just the way that the neighborhood was graded. And currently I've got 2 more that I've got to put in the spring because of a neighbor's property that no fault of his, but his home drains into my yard. And even though I took care of my issues, my driveway is sinking because of water coming in from his house. My house sits lower than his does. So it's not really a problem for him, but it is a problem for me. And again, it'll be an expense that I have as a single family home owner, is taking care of and addressing that issue. So we've discussed actually as a board how to address the neighbors' issues, not for single family, for the flooding townhome owners that are affected by something that is going on with their neighbor's property. And so unfortunately, it's just a very small area. And as townhome owners, everything really that your neighbors do as far as landscaping is going to affect your drainage. So I think that's another reason as well that it's thrown back as a expense for you as individual townhome owners. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the reverse question of that would be for the town homeowners who don't have drainage issues. They would be like, why is it my problem to cover these things? And that's part of it. It's an all-encompassing. Laura, you had something else? Piggyback?
So I just want to confirm that I'm not going to get a knock on my door and say, excuse me, this is your bill for this being taken care of.
You're good, Laura.
No.
We've got you.
Your bill is
You're on the list.
it's all wrapped up in the and the dues. I mean, yes, you are getting a bill for it, but it's
Right.
a portion of it. So we're
Right, I
spreading
get
it
it.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, but for your drains, no, we've got you down, and yours is definitely an issue that is unable to be fixed with anything else. So, and
Right.
Matt's been
Okay.
really great at helping to show that off. And I think we've talked several times. So you're good, Laura. You don't even have to worry about reporting anything else. Just you are on the list. We got you.
Great. Thank you so much.
You are
And
welcome.
it's a recorded meeting, so you've got proof.
Yes. Thank you.
You're all
Yes.
set.
Anybody else? And then we're gonna call it at less than a minute. So if anybody's got a last minute thing they want to fire a salvo out where they go. All right. Well, I very much appreciate everybody who was here. Like I said, it is a recorded meeting, so if some of you came in late, or if you talked to somebody who missed it, I will do my very best to get this posted up to the YouTube and then over to I put it on the website, and then I'm sure it'll get shared to Facebook, and then share it to your other social media platforms if you want to. So thank you to the board for being here. I motion that we adjourn the meeting. It's 8 p.m. And since the motion to adjourn requires no second, we're adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.